Okay, we're gonna finish up Congress. So yesterday we left off with gridlock. So we're gonna start here with log rolling. Log rolling is, so it's kind of good that the log rolling comes right after gridlock. So if we have all this gridlock in at the federal government level, in this era we're in this era of a divided government, which causes a lot of gridlock. One way in which legislators try to get bills passed is they will engage in log rolling, which is just vote trading amongst representatives and senators. So I'll vote for your bill if you'll vote for mine. Okay, mandatory uncontrollable spending. I think this could possibly considered to be part of Congress. I didn't really get into it in class. Mandatory uncontrollable spending is the opposite of discretionary spending. Discretionary spending is where the federal government's like, hey, let's spend this much on national parks this year, or let's spend this much on the military, or let's spend this much on education. They have choice in how much they spend. Mandatory or uncontrollable spending is your entitlement programs. So Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. This is mandatory or uncontrollable spending. Federal government cannot decide, well, hey, this is what we're going to make entitlement spending this year. Depending on if you are eligible through the federal Social Security laws, if you claim for Social Security benefits, you're going to get it. The government's got to make those payments. Mandatory or uncontrollable spending makes up 50% of the budget. It's a reason why it's really hard to balance the budget in the United States, because 50% of the spending has got to go to all of these entitlement programs like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. The federal government has no control over how much they spend on that. If you qualify and you apply, you're going to get it. Therefore, the government's got to meet that bill. Okay, that's why it's referred to as mandatory or uncontrollable. Okay, markup session. This is just simply most of the work in Congress is done in committee. And when the committee gets that bill, they tend to mark it up. They tend to amend it or change it in some way, shape, or form. That's just a markup session. So the bill gets changed, altered, marked up in committee. Omnibus Bill. This is your pork barrel legislation. So when a spending bill goes through Congress and it starts to get all of these riders where representatives and senators are trying to get money funneled to their state or their district, it starts to be referred to as an omnibus bill. Okay, so it has a lot of markups and riders. That's all that means. Okay, the Politico model of representation. This is related to the delegate model. The Politico model means that you're going to take into account not only the fact that you're a delegate, but you're a trustee. And given it's a blending of the two, right? So the delegate model of representation is you're acting as a voice of your constituents. You're going to vote the way your constituents would want you to vote. A trustee is you are going to vote your conscience or what you think is best or what you think is best for the United States. The Politico model means you're going to consider both when making that decision. Maybe it's a complicated matter. You're going to consider what your constituents want. You can consider what's best for the United States. And then so you're going to consider all factors when making your vote. All right. Pork barrel spending. I've gotten into that over the last couple of days. That is just simply these omnibus bills, right, where senators and representatives try to win federal funds to their states or their districts, because that is an economic boon to their particular state or their district. That is something they can show their constituents, like, hey, look, I've brought this money in, right? That has helped us economically. All right, that's your pork barrel spending. Reapportionment, right? This is in Article 1 of the Constitution. So if, based on population shifts after the census, which is in the Constitution as well, the census, right? You take all of the representatives off the map and then you redistribute them based on the population shifts that the census shows. And then the state legislatures take on the redrawing of district lines. That's redistricting. And when they do that to gain a political advantage for a party, they are gerrymandering. All right. The Rules Committee, right? The Rules Committee only exists in the House of Representatives. They attach rules to bills, right? So the Senate has those informal rules, no Rules Committee. That's why senators can talk for as long as they want. But the Rules Committee in the House, which is, sometimes referred to as the Speaker's Committee, they attach rules to bills. So those rules could either speed up that bill going through, the House of Representatives, or it could slow it down or kill it altogether. So the Rules Committee is very powerful. Representatives want to be on the Rules Committee. Select committees, these are temporary committees, right? So your standing committees right here, these are your permanent subject matter committees. So this is like the Committee on Agriculture or the Committee on Space and Technology and Science. Or the Committee on Veterans Affairs. They go from one Congress to the next. They deal with, and I'm referring to standing committees, they deal with the permanent subject matter bills. Your select committees do not. They are dealing with something temporary. It is something they are researching, and then they're going to report back to Congress what they find. Okay, so they are investigative. They're researching. They are not considering legislation. 17th Amendment, right? This is more democratization in the United States. Originally, senators are chosen by the state legislatures. The 17th Amendment changes that. Now the citizens of the states are choosing who their senators are. That's more democracy in the United States. We've seen more democratization over time through some of these various amendments. All right, 17th Amendment, 19th Amendment, and so on. Speaker of the House, most powerful member of the House of Representatives. They are chosen by the majority party. They can use that Rules Committee to speed up legislation, slow down legislation. They also basically set the legislative agenda in the House of Representatives. So they're deciding what legislation is important, what needs to be considered. Standing committees, I just went over. The trustee model as well, I went over. Let me review that again really quick. Trustee model means you're just voting either your conscience or what you think is best. You're not really considering your constituents' wishes when considering legislation as a representative. Okay, the War Powers Act. As the United States has grown, so has the United States military. That's yielded a lot of power to the president. Remember, some people refer to our president now as the imperial presidency, meaning the president's powers have grown more than what was designed by the framers. War Powers Act is trying to rein in that commander-in-chief power. It's passed by Congress, Vietnam era. Basically, if the president's going to commit troops to action, they've got to notify Congress in 48 hours. And if they do not get congressional approval, then the troops have to come home after 60 days. Okay, that's the War Powers Act. All right, Ways and Means Committee. The Ways and Means Committee is going to be the committee that deals with taxes. It only exists in the House of Representatives. Remember, anything that has to do with raising revenue, taxing, has got to start in the House of Representatives. That's a special power in the House of Representatives, and that bill is going to go to the Ways and Means Committee. Okay, whip. This is just a leadership role that exists in both the House and the Senate. They are in charge of trying to ensure party loyalty. So when a Democrat is not behind a bill that is considered a Democratic bill, the whip is usually going to go try to influence that individual to vote along party lines. All right. Okay, cool. Tomorrow we will get into the president. That's it for today.